Let's get right into it. Number 8, water into wine, the first miracle. At a wedding in Cana, Jesus performed his very first recorded miracle. The celebration had run out of wine, a disaster in ancient Jewish culture where hospitality was sacred. Mary, his mother, urged him to act, even though he told her that his time had not yet come. Still, he instructed servants to fill 6 massive stone jars with water, containers used for ritual purification. When the master of the banquet tasted what had been drawn, it was no longer water, but fine wine. What shocked everyone was not only the sudden transformation, but the quality. The steward marveled that the best wine had been saved for last, overturning expectations of tradition. This act revealed more than hospitality. It was a sign of abundance and renewal. For the disciples, this miracle confirmed their growing belief that Jesus was no ordinary teacher. For us today, it shows how God can bring joy and restoration when human resources run dry. Jesus didn't just provide, he provided extravagantly. Number 7, feeding the 5,000, a meal for the multitude. On the shores of Galilee, a massive crowd gathered, drawn by Jesus' teaching and healing. As evening approached, hunger threatened the assembly. The disciples saw no solution. 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish could barely feed a family, let alone thousands. Yet Jesus took what was offered, gave thanks, broke the bread, and distributed it. Miraculously, everyone ate until satisfied, and 12 baskets of leftovers remained. The shock of this miracle lay not only in the multiplication itself, but in its symbolism. In a wilderness setting, the act echoed God's provision of manna to Israel in the desert. It showed Jesus as more than a healer. He was the bread of life, sustaining body and spirit. This miracle also reversed expectations of scarcity. The crowd expected little, but Jesus turned insufficiency into abundance. The disciples learned that even the smallest offering, placed in his hands, could meet overwhelming needs. For us today, the lesson is simple yet profound. Faith begins when we place what we have before God, however small. Number 6, walking on water, master of the storm. Late at night, the disciples struggled across the Sea of Galilee, their boat battered by wind and waves. Suddenly, they saw a figure approaching, walking on the water. Terrified, they thought it was a ghost, but Jesus spoke. "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." Peter, daring to test the moment, stepped out and joined him, walking briefly on the waves before sinking in doubt. Jesus reached out and saved him, calming both the storm and their fear. What shocked the disciples most was this mastery over creation itself. Healing the sick was one thing, commanding nature was another. In Jewish thought, only God ruled the seas. Chaos and storms were symbols of powers beyond human control. Yet, here was Jesus, striding across the deep as though it were solid ground. This miracle reminds us that faith does not eliminate storms, but sustains us through them. It also shows how fear can sink us faster than waves, but trust keeps us standing. For believers today, the image of Jesus on the waters is a lasting assurance. No chaos is beyond his reach. Number 5, healing the man born blind, light of the world. In Jerusalem, Jesus encountered a man blind from birth. The disciples assumed his condition was punishment for sin, either his or his parents. But Jesus declared that the man's blindness was an opportunity to reveal God's works. He spat on the ground, made mud with his saliva, and spread it on the man's eyes. After washing in the pool of Siloam, the man could see for the first time in his life. The shock reverberated through the city. Healing was one thing, but restoring sight to someone born blind was unprecedented. Religious leaders interrogated the man and his parents, refusing to believe what had happened. Yet the man's testimony was simple and irrefutable. "One thing I know, that though I was blind, now I see." This miracle carried deep symbolic meaning. Jesus declared himself the light of the world, the one who opens eyes not just physically but spiritually. For us today, it challenges us to examine our own blind spots. Are there truths we refuse to see? The miracle shows that Christ brings sight where ignorance and darkness once reigned. Number 4, calming the storm, authority over chaos. During another crossing of the Sea of Galilee, a violent storm erupted. Waves swamped the boat and the disciples feared for their lives. Jesus, astonishingly, was asleep in the stern. They woke him in panic. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Rising, he rebuked the wind and commanded the waves, "Peace, be still." Instantly the storm ceased, leaving perfect calm. The disciples were left trembling, not from the storm, but from the realization of what they had witnessed. "Who is this," they whispered, "that even the wind and the waves obey him?" In Jewish thought, only the Creator had authority over the sea, often seen as a symbol of chaos and evil. For Jesus to still it with a word was to reveal divine power in unmistakable terms. The lesson echoes today. Storms come in many forms: financial, emotional, spiritual. We may feel abandoned, as the disciples did, yet Jesus is not distant. His command over chaos assures us that even when life feels overwhelming, He remains Lord over it all. Number 3, the paralytic healed, power to forgive. In Capernaum, a paralyzed man was lowered through the roof by friends desperate to bring him to Jesus. Seeing their faith, Jesus spoke not of healing, but of forgiveness. "Son, your sins are forgiven." The religious teachers were scandalized. Only God could forgive sins. To prove his authority, Jesus then told the man to rise, pick up his mat, and walk. Instantly, strength returned to the man's legs, and he left in full view of the amazed crowd. This miracle shocked everyone because it linked physical healing with spiritual authority. The crowd expected restoration of the body. Instead, Jesus addressed the deeper need of the soul. By forgiving sins, he claimed an authority reserved for God himself. The healing was the visible sign that confirmed his invisible power. For us today, the message is clear. Jesus does not simply treat symptoms. He goes to the root of human brokenness, sin, and restores us fully. The miracle reminds us that faith involves trust, not only in physical provision, but in eternal redemption. Number 2, raising Jairus' daughter, life restored. A synagogue leader named Jairus pleaded with Jesus to heal his dying daughter. Before they arrived, news came. She was already dead. Morning had begun, with weeping and wailing filling the house. Yet Jesus entered, saying, "The child is not dead but asleep." Scoffers laughed at him, but he took the girl's hand and spoke gently, "Little girl, arise." Instantly her spirit returned, and she stood up, astonishing her parents and silencing the mourners. What made this miracle shocking was not only the reversal of death, but the tenderness of it. Unlike dramatic displays, Jesus restored life with calm authority and compassion. In a culture where death was final and feared, he treated it as sleep, a temporary state from which he had power to awaken. For us today, the miracle is a profound reminder that death does not have the last word. Jesus' power over life and death points to the greater resurrection hope for all who believe. It calls us to trust him not only in sickness and loss, but in the face of eternity. Number 1, raising Lazarus, victory over death. Perhaps the most shocking miracle came in Bethany. Lazarus, a close friend of Jesus, had been dead for 4 days. The tomb was sealed and mourning filled the village. When Jesus arrived, he wept, sharing in human grief. Yet he also commanded, "Roll away the stone." Despite fears of decay, the stone was moved. Jesus prayed, then cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." That's all for today. I'll be making more videos like this, so subscribe if you don't want to miss them.